And especially in food, where you see private label coming out with not just three-tier offerings, but multiple tier offering, not just the good, better, best anymore. It's really blurring the lines with what consumers perceive as high quality. And you want to make sure your brands stay relevant to the consumer with what your product stands for and why it's superior to a private label offering.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Dig In podcast. I am so thrilled to be joined today by a longtime friend of Dig's. I'm joined by Amir Jamil, Associate Director, Analytics, Insights, and Capabilities at Barilla. Amir, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this for some time.
Thank you, Jess. Glad to be on.
So I'm going to start with an impromptu question, just throwing one at you. If you could be any superhero, who would you be?
That's a tough question. There's so many good ones out there, Batman, Superman. But you know what? I'm thinking the Ghostbusters. They worked
Hmm.
together as a team. They defeated the evil slime in New York City. And you know what? Their jokes stand the test of time.
Don't they? That's a good one. Yeah. And I love the resurgence of Ghostbusters with this latest generation. It's kind of cool for our kids to be able to experience Ghostbusters all over again, huh? Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about your background and your role today at Barilla.
At Barilla, I'm the Associate Director of Analytics, Insights, and Capabilities. I lead insights for both North and South America. And I've been with Barilla for almost 5 years now. And prior to Barilla, I worked at other CPG companies, Land Frost, a family-owned packaged meats company, Maple Leaf Foods, and I was on the supplier side at the NPD Group for a couple of years, which is now Circana.
So you've been both on the client side and the dark side, is what I like to say for people that have done both. But I'm sure that's
Prefer the
certainly
client side.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's probably part of the reason you're such an empathetic partner to work with. So let's dig in. As you know, our listeners really do crave inspiration from leaders. And I think one of the best ways to inspire is to tell a story. And you have a really rich story about guiding the consumer segmentation strategy at Barilla. So I'd love for you to kind of take us back to the beginning of when that initiative first started. What was the context at the time?
Well, I joined Barilla in December of 2020, so COVID was at full force. I don't think I've actually physically saw the people on my team, the broader team, key stakeholders until after a couple months in. So, from joining on teams, you always want to try to get face-to-face meetings all the time and build relationships. So for the segmentation study, we were long overdue, went through an entire RFP process. I ended up not utilizing the partner we used in the past and brought a new research partner in the company. I was the new guy. I was starting a new team, building a fresh, clean slate. And so we started the segmentation initiative. We had a kickoff call with the team. We reviewed the high level outputs, key questions all be answered, went through the whole 9 yards. And I thought things were going well. And then some folks on the team, they were asking, legume at the time, was growing double digits and still had such a small share, but it was growing. So why do a pasta segmentation? Why not focus on legume?
Mm.
So I kept getting pushback on that. It was very difficult. You're trying to build relationships and it was difficult at the time, I remember.
Especially as a new guy, like you said, right? So this is your first kind of foray with them. And so, yeah, talk more about what that felt like probably at the time.
Yeah, so I remember I kept getting pushback on it. And I'm hearing if I didn't run a segmentation on legume, it wouldn't be actionable. It wouldn't be helpful for the business in the US and Canada. And, those are the last things you want to hear as an insights lead at
Yeah.
an organization. So I'm the new guy. I'm trying to build trust with the team. I brought on a new research partner and I'm trying to build a solid reputation in my new role. So how do I get the segmentation as a big win for me? And what am I going to do about it? Right. So I ended up doing one-on-one conversations with the team. Let's sit down face to face. Let's talk about it. I know my bosses were aligned with the approach, trying to garner support from the rest of the team. I explained to the team that, our focus should be dry pasta. We need to look at the dry pasta universe. We could still get visibility on legume, but it should not be the sole focus. And if I remember correctly, this took a couple of days and some people were holding out, but it was just really sitting down face to face, talking to them and really building trust and ensuring them that we could still get a good read on legume. We executed and we all aligned to it. And then the ironic thing was, I think it was a year or two later, the legume segment tapered off and they were actually experiencing decline. So had I spent an exorbitant amount of budget on a legume segmentation, that
Yeah.
wouldn't have been effective at all.
Sure. Yeah. Wasted money for sure. And I'm curious too, because consumer segmentation work, it can be such a significant time and, financial investment, a lot on the line. how do you measure success for that type of initiative? Like, how do you say that was a successful engagement? It gave the organization what we wanted and needed.
Yeah, it was all about the actionability. We're able to size the prize of the different segments in the pasta category. We're identified a clear focus for each of our sub brands of which consumer segment to target and what the dollar volume opportunity would be. And the segmentation was executed for the US and Canada. And that type of the workshops that we ran were also implemented in the other regions.
Yeah. And at the beginning of the story, you were talking about how you were actually going away from the existing research supplier, right? So you also had that newness in there. How did you build conviction around that decision and that recommendation?
I think with the past segmentation, there weren't any quantifiable segments to target. So there's no tie in with the Nielsen data to identify the size of the prize. So basically, bringing in a new partner that can do the information that's very robust in terms of providing a segmentation and specializing in it really helped sell the case.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say is one of your biggest takeaways from that experience and maybe like a lesson you'd hope other insights leaders could take away from it?
I think overall, the key thing is to build trust and sit down with the key stakeholders and really talk to them. And on one hand, show empathy, but really build your case with facts and data and explain why this is the right way for the business. And if your objective is focusing on the business and not getting personal or being objective, that's the best route to take.
Yeah. Yeah. Focus on those outcomes, not the emotion along the way. That's really good advice.
No, I think, as an insights lead, we always need to focus on the consumer, have a laser focus on the consumer, and keep them at the center of all the things that we do to drive growth for our brands.
Well, you live and breathe that every day. So thanks for sharing that inspiration. So we're going to turn to one of your more passionate points of view or the things that you're really paying attention to. One of the things that we've talked about is just the importance of Gen Z and keeping track of them. So tell me a little bit about how that plays out and how you approach your work.
I think for a lot of insights professionals and across different categories, the biggest challenge is to stay relevant with the Gen Z consumer. And especially in food, where you see private label coming out with not just three-tier offerings, but multiple tier offering, not just the good, better, best anymore. It's really blurring the lines with what consumers perceive as high quality. And
Mhm.
you want to make sure your brands stay relevant to the consumer with what your product stands for and why it's superior to a private label offering.
Is there anything really surprising that you've learned about Gen Z and their relationship with pasta?
I think looking at Gen Z, there's so much, lack of a better word, clutter going on with everything on social media and trying to reach out to them that I think you really need to break through in some way that is authentic and meaningful to them.
Hmm.
And you really need to define what your product stands for them because maybe the older generations get it, maybe it was past campaigns, but really redefining what you stand for to that cohort is important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think pasta is probably one of those categories that the brand that you buy early in your life, probably you stick with it. I would think that's the dynamic. So super important to grab them now at the forefront of their pasta making journeys.
Yes, and especially with pasta, a lot of them buy Barilla because their parents bought it and that's
Yeah.
what they grew up on. And you want to continue that momentum and continue that impact of the brand
Yeah.
for future generations.
Well, it's true for the Gaedeke household. We are consistent buyers of the fusilli, to be exact. That's what my son has quite often. So
Facility, very nice.
yeah, he really he's into that.
I'm a big fan of orchiette.
I just made a dish last week with that actually with some leeks and bacon, and it was really delightful. We make pasta probably more often than I should for the waistline, but hey, you're here for it, I'm sure.
Hey, try our Protein Plus. It's
Yes, yeah, yeah. Pack it in there, absolutely.
keeps you satiated.
Especially in your role, Amir, with being not just insights but also capabilities. I'm interested. What new tools and new frameworks are you seeing a lot of value in today?
AI is definitely a big topic today, and we definitely would like to incorporate AI-based tools in our work stream. And with AI becoming so prevalent now, hopefully we want to drive cost savings and allow us to focus more of our bandwidth on more strategic work.
Yeah. So is that the benefit? Is that the outcome you're seeking when you figure out where AI should play? Is that you want to get better insights? You want to do it faster, more at least less expensively? Where you can,
Faster insights and hopefully cut some budget.
yeah, smarter spend, right? Yeah, I think that's what we're hearing from a lot of leaders out there. What's your hot take on the future of the food industry?
The biggest thing happening right now is GLP-1, and my team has worked on sharing some of the key insights with the rest of the organization. I mean, it's huge. It's 21 billion sales globally, and a lot more and more consumers are adopting to it as a way to improve their health and lose weight. And we expect to see shifts in groceries, especially with like desserts and sweet and savory snacks,
Mhm.
as consumers on GLP-1 will gravitate more to nutrient dense options and whole foods, fresh produce.
Well, like you said, your protein forward offerings are probably a good fit within that segment.
For sure.
All right, we're going to turn to the final dig. This is all about you just as an individual out there living your life. So feel free to take off the professional hat if you wish for a moment. What's the last product or service that you bought on impulse?
The last thing I bought would be concert tickets. I've
Mm.
always loved going to shows. You can only imagine how I felt during COVID, but the 90s rock band Oasis is touring. They have a reunion
Yeah.
tour. So I'll be seeing them in a couple weeks at Soldier Field.
Nice. Ooh, at a Soldier Field. That'll be fun. I'm going to see Dave Matthews Band next week in Tahoe.
Oh,
And
very nice.
yeah, I'm so excited because I was obsessed with him in college. Saw him tons of times, but it's been a long time. So I am like a little too excited about that Tuesday night event.
And they really know how to jam. They could just improvise and, take
Exactly.
a 4-minute song and turn it into
Exactly.
15 minutes.
Exactly, and no show's the same, so I'm really excited. What's a category or a product or a brand that you could rationalize any price point for? You just have to have it in your life.
There are lots of them. Especially with the carbonated beverage, Olipop, I
Mhm.
would pay extra for. I know Slice made a comeback. I first tried them at the Expo West show
Oh,
this
yeah.
year. Olamia olive oil.
Mhm.
I learned that from meeting the chefs when I first joined Barilla, and I use it for cooking and even as an appetizer. Non-food related, I'd say Brooks running shoes. You can't put a price on good shoes, comfortable, and they're a little stylish.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you mentioned the Barilla chefs. You must get to try some really good food in your line of work.
Yes, we have a SciMed lunch every month, so we get to explore all the different varieties of food with pasta included.
Mhm.
And we also have learning kitchens where we learn to make pasta and sauce. I actually made sauce for the first time with my bare hands. It's quite
Oh,
exciting.
wow. Very cool, very cool. I love it. Um, Brands have distinct personalities, and so I'm curious, is there a brand that you would like to date and a brand that you would like to marry, and they can be the same brand or different?
Technically, I'm already married, but I mean, looking for a brand that's maybe a little quirky, easygoing, good sense of humor, and open to new ideas. So Old Spice comes to mind. I call them one of my dad's brands, along with Barbasol shaving cream.
Yeah.
They reinvented themselves to a younger audience, and I remember commercials that they used with AI with Drago from Rocky Four, and they just have some very funny and quirky commercials out there.
Yeah, I love that brand too. It's really fun to observe just from a branding and advertising standpoint. My son's 13 and he's already a loyal buyer of Old Spice, both the body wash and the deodorant. And I think that's another example of getting him young. He'll probably be a lifelong buyer, I would assume, of that brand. So finally, Amir, what keeps you inspired at work? You can tell that you've got a lot of energy around what you do. I'd love to know why.
Constantly being challenged and doing new things. Right now I'm working on a company-wide initiative to improve our processes. Can't really divulge on the details now, but maybe a topic for our next podcast.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
really, working along cross-functional teams, and when you get the moment infusing humor in a situation, I mean, you do something you love and you have fun doing it, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully we can all be so lucky to love what we do the way you do. Thank you for being a friend of Diggs and for joining me on the podcast. This was a really great conversation today.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate it.
Like what you heard? Share the inspiration or head to diginsights.com to learn more about what we do.